the Miami Heat are finding it a little bit tougher than maybe they expected, even after Jimmy Butler requested a trade to move the talented two-way wing. And on this episode, we're going to talk about why it's been a little bit more difficult for the Miami Heat to find that trade market for Jimmy Butler. We're also going to look at the OKC Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers, both these teams being on crazy winning streaks, and who's going to be the first one to lose a game. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So this one comes from Brian Windhorst, who says this: the Heat have definitely gotten a lot of calls on Butler, but rival teams are playing serious hardball. Saying this right now, I think you're seeing a lot of teams testing just how low they may be able to buy Jimmy Butler for. The one exception to that has been the Phoenix Suns. And the sort of irony of this situation is the best fit and most aggressive team for Jimmy is maybe the one out of the 29 teams that has the hardest time getting him, and that is the Phoenix Suns. And so when you look at all of this in the way that it's worked out, right, I think most people expected, after Jimmy Butler requested the trade officially, that it was going to be a little bit of a tough. And there's going to be a filling out period, right? Teams are going to want to see how desperate are the Miami Heat really to move Jimmy Butler, or and can they get him for maybe less than what was initially expected? Now, Pat Riley is the type of GM. I don't necessarily see Pat Riley selling Jimmy Butler for extremely low, even with the distraction and what this has turned into for the franchise. You've gotten everybody in the Miami Heat, from Bram to Tyler. Everybody's talked about this situation, kind of what it's all turned into, and it's really unfortunate, right? It is one of the conversations around the basketball world. And like I said, when this, initially happened, and we talked about it when it was breaking news, is that this is what Jimmy does. When Jimmy wants to get out of a place, he is not, out of the realm of making a complete shit show out of it. And, to his credit, I think that Jimmy, he's done what he's done. It is what it is when it comes down to it. But I do think that this still shows how much power players still have in the NBA, right? And while, the player empowerment, all that happened in the player empowerment era that we're in and things like that, like, players are going to have a lot of power, especially when you look at the end of their contracts, because they can make it a fuss. They can try to force a trade. They can do a lot, which then negatively impacts the team that does have their contract and have them making some move. And so, listen, Jimmy Butler is using the power that's there for him. You can agree with it. You can disagree with it. And there's a lot of validity no matter how and what perspective that you look on it with. But Jimmy sees the situation. He wanted to try to work out a contract extension with the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat did not, see it for their future, for their present, things like that. It didn't make sense for them. And now Jimmy's using it for what it is. And so it is what it is when it comes down to it. Now, the Phoenix Suns being the team that's willing to be the most aggressive to get Jimmy Butler, but they can't because Bradley Beal doesn't want to waive that no trade clause. On top of that, the Heat had an opportunity to get Bradley Beal 2 years ago, and they didn't want Bradley Beal. So it's clear that that's not the route that the Miami Heat want to go. Now, could they try to find a third team to do a 3-team trade? Yeah, possibly, but you still have the Bradley Beal contract situation of it and the no trade clause part of it to factor in. So all of those things combining, it's going to be really, really, really fun to watch how this all shakes out for both the Miami Heat and for Jimmy Butler, right? Now, it also came out per Windhorst that Jimmy Butler does believe that any team he goes to, he can make a contender. A shout out to Jimmy for the confidence there. But, whether that's a ploy, whether that is, to garner up some more interest, it is what it is when it comes down to it, man. Shams has said the same thing in regards to Phoenix. He did say, Shams said this: Jimmy Butler's open to playing anywhere other than Miami, and he believes he can make any team a contender. Direct quote there from Shams Charania. And so listen, this is going to be interesting. And it's already taken another interesting turn, because something that I did not get to talk about as of yet is how the NBA Players Association is also getting involved in all of this as well. Like, saying that they felt like the Miami Heat, it's basically, they're doing too much to try to suspend Jimmy Butler to this level, and that the things he has done isn't necessarily that egregious. But yeah, it seems like right now that there's starting to be some people around the NBA that thinks, hey, this thing is not going to happen. This Jimmy Butler trade is probably not going to happen. It may not happen at all. And then you get the NBA Players Association involved in it as well. And this is just turning into a complete and utter shit show. That's what this is turning into. And we'll see where it develops. So let me know your guys' thoughts down below. With the Players Association getting involved, do you think that the Miami Heat did overstep in deciding to suspend Jimmy Butler? Do you think that other teams that are playing hardball right now are going to get back in and come with more reasonable deals that the Miami Heat could be interested in? Or do you share some of that pessimism from around the league that Jimmy Butler may not be moved even despite his trade request? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Now, with that, I want to talk about two teams right now that are absolutely surging in the NBA. And I know a lot of people like to think that they're on a collision course for the NBA Finals. Doesn't always work out that way. But the Cleveland Cavaliers, which are on a 10-game winning streak, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is on a 15-game winning streak, it's crazy to see the run that these two teams are on, and both are on a course to maybe win 60, 65 plus games. I mean, hell, when you look at it, the Cleveland Cavaliers right now are technically on pace, if you look at win percentage, to win over 70 games. And the OKC Thunder aren't far behind them in those projections either. So it's going to really be fun to watch which one of these teams slow down first. But when you look at it, at what these teams have done over this stretch, over this 10-game stretch for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they have a positive 17.2 net rating. They have a 126 offensive rating, which is first in the NBA, as is that net rating. They have a defensive rating of 108.7, which is fifth in the NBA. Over this 10-game stretch as well, they're shooting the ball 62% true shooting percentage as a team. Do you know how hard it is as a team to shoot a 62% true shooting percentage as a team? That's ridiculous what the Cleveland Cavaliers have been able to do right now. As well as over that same time period, they have an effective field goal shooting percentage of 60%, basically 59.6%, which is, again, first in the NBA, right? It's crazy to see what they're doing right now. They're fourth in the league in turnover percentage. They keep the turnovers down. They're seventh in the league over that time period as far as assist percentage. Almost 70% of their buckets are assisted. How do you beat a team that is so locked in as a team that anybody is a threat to go off on any given night? How do you do that, right? And while I had some doubt initially at the start of the season over the Cleveland Cavaliers, at this point, the sample size is large. We're almost halfway through the season. The Cavs have played 35 games. They are 6 games away from the half a season mark. And even, just to put this in perspective, if the Cavs lost the next 6 games in a row to make it to 41 games overall, they would still be on pace to win almost 65 games. That's how much the Cleveland Cavaliers have added a buffer into the season. They are playing some of the best basketball that you're going to see, period. The way that the Cleveland Cavaliers are attacking as a team, and like I pointed this out many times here and on Locked On NBA, is that the scary thing about all this is that Donovan Mitchell is only averaging 23.4 points per game, and we know what Donovan Mitchell can do scoring-wise. He is yet to really, outside of a few games, right, yet to really have to put the team completely on his back because he's getting so much help. Darius Garland is getting so much help, and these guys have basically been healthy. Out of the 35 games for the Cleveland Cavaliers so far this season, Donovan Mitchell has played 33. Darius Garland has played 33. Evan Mobley's played 32. Jared Allen has played 34. That is just a monumental number when you look at the relative health that they've had. Karis LeVert at 28. Nang with 34, right? This team has been relatively healthy, but even when they are missing some people, somebody steps up hugely in a case like that. This is a team that is going to be dangerous. I get it. For anyone, because of the Boston Celtics being the defending champions, all that, to still have the Boston Celtics as the favorite to come out the East, it's understandable to have that. But the Cleveland Cavaliers are making this thing to where you can only keep doubting them for so long. This Cavs team it's amazing to watch as far as from a basketball standpoint. I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, as most of you guys know. And when you watch the Cleveland Cavaliers play basketball, I don't understand, if you are a fan of the game of basketball, how you are not enjoying the way these guys are playing. It's so great. The balance between this team, the balance that's struck here is amazing. And when the Cavs locked in most of this core into contract extensions, I thought, hey, it could be, they lock them in. If they need to move off some of these guys, they can get, assets back because a team acquiring them would be acquiring them with years left on their deals. But no, the Cavs are showing that they are a team that you got to take notice in. If you don't have them on your board as a team that can come out the East and possibly win a title this year, I don't know what you're smoking at this point. You can only deny progress and inevitability so much, right? And the Cleveland Cavaliers have been a really good example of that. But there is another team in the NBA, in the OKC Thunder right now, who have won 15 games in a row. And over that time period, they have a net rating of 14.3, right? Which is crazy to see as well. Like, they have an offensive rating of 115.3, which is only 11th best in the league. But they have the number one defensive rating over that time period at 102.8. They have a true shooting percentage of 57.7%, which would actually be one of the top in the league if it wasn't for what the Cleveland Cavaliers were doing. They have an effective field goal shooting percentage of 54.5%. Now, their assist ratio is not nearly anything as close as to what the Cleveland Cavaliers are doing. Their assist ratio, 6% is 60% right now. But they're not turning the ball over. They're fourth in turnover percentage. And so it's just to watch what this team has done, right? They're number one in steals, which is something that benefits them. They're 10th in block percentage as well, right? When you look at what this team is doing, especially defensively, right? They still have their issues. We know the three-point shooting has been a problem for them at times, right? And that's probably why their true shooting percentage isn't nearly as high as like the Cleveland Cavaliers. They just don't shoot the three ball very well. They got to work on that some, right, when it comes down to it. But overall, this team, over this stretch as well, averaging 113 points per game. This is also a team, like, if it wasn't for what the Cleveland Cavaliers were doing as well right now, we'd be saying that the Thunder are having the best season in the NBA. And, and again, it's not like either of these teams have been slouches, right? And so when you look at the West, when you look at the East, and as many, people rightfully so talk about how weak the East is and things like that, like the Cleveland Cavaliers are getting it done against the West. Wins against Denver, wins against Dallas. They got the wins against the West as well. They have a really good record against the West. And you look at the OKC Thunder as well and what they're doing on their schedule and over this stretch as well. Over this stretch, they've beaten some really good teams. These are two teams right now that are playing some of the best basketball that you will see since December 3rd, right? Which is over a month ago. The OKC Thunder have only lost one game. While they're on the 15-game winning streak right now, they lost one game. That was December 17th against Milwaukee. They have not lost since then. And keep in mind, these teams are on a collision course on Wednesday, January 8th, right? And it's going to be fun to watch. That is their next matchup. So these winning streaks, one of them's coming to an end because these two teams face off on ESPN on January 8th, which is 3 days away. And who comes out of that, man, is going to have the longest winning streak, active winning streak in the NBA at that time. These are two juggernauts. I love the way that both these teams do with balance. I talked about the balance of the Cleveland Cavaliers. The OKC Thunder have balance as well. Now, of course, when you can catch them on a night where the three-point shot is not falling or the shots aren't falling, it's interesting, right? Because they're beatable in that manner. But you look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the fact that he should absolutely be an MVP candidate. Jalen Williams is averaging over 20 points per game. Now, keep in mind, they're doing all of this without Chet Holmgren, and he's coming back at some point as well before the end of this season. If they can get Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein on the right page, on the same page, man, this team has a whole nother ceiling that they can go into, right? And I for one, I know this has been something that has triggered Cavs fans before. I would still have the OKC Thunder over just because of that. But listen, you can pick either team and be absolutely right in whatever way that you view it. I think it's going to come down to who steps up the most, who operates as a team. And I tend to believe on defense, but let's not act like the Cleveland Cavaliers are any slouch defensively at all either. These are two teams that the collision course that's coming Wednesday is all, and neither one has a game between now and then. So they're going to both be rested. They're going to both have several days of rest. They're both going to be coming into those games. right? With winning streaks, with momentum and all that. This is what NBA basketball is about. And I can't wait to see this game. I can't wait to see this matchup because I tell you what, I may very well go live after this because this is a heavyweight championship match that's loading up here for the OKC Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And it could be a preview of the 2025 NBA Finals. You guys can let me know how you feel on that down below. Let me know what you guys think. The OKC Thunder, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who right now do you have as the favorite to win a title, but just between those two teams? Let me know that down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything basketball related. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.